Welcome to Knights of Roleplay, an adventuring podcast. This is an actual play Dungeons & Dragons podcast. Royalty-free music provided by Kevin MacLeod, Michael Gelfie Studios, Plate Mill Games, and Tabletop Audio. And now, to adventure. Hello listeners, thank you for joining us for this episode of Knights of Roleplay. I'm DM Chris, and this is Session 0 for my upcoming homebrew campaign called Dragonbirth, which is set in my homebrew campaign setting called Harkenrath. In this session we will be talking about a variety of topics regarding the campaign. If we have time, we'll do a very short adventure. The topics we'll be covering are as follows: campaign essentials, campaign length, streamlining combat encounters, character creation, magic items, game rules, table rules, playing a person down, safety tools, and further development. So, starting with campaign essentials, give printed versions of the campaign one sheet. So I created a campaign one sheet that I shared in Google Docs with everybody, but I'm going to give out a printed copy anyway. So for the benefit of the players, it basically just gives kind of a rundown of the basics of the campaign, some stuff about character creation, a little bit about safety tools. So I'm just going to pass this out to everyone, although again they have access to it in our shared Google Docs.
Safety tools, does that include safe words?
You know you could have saved a tree. Jesus Christ.
Okay. So I handed out the campaign one sheet.
It's going to kill me already.
Saving a digital tree is not saving an actual tree.
So the concept of this campaign takes place in my homebrew setting called Harkenrath on the island continent of Iador, which is ruled over by the Dragonborn species and overseen by 5 chromatic dragons: white, blue, black, red, and green. By homebrew, I mean I created the overall campaign setting, but I may use material from a variety of published products and place that material into my homebrew setting, in which case I will give credit to whoever it is that I appropriated that from or inspired, whatever that is. The campaign pitch is to end the rule of the Dragonborn Council. The in-game tone is serious, and the 6 truths of the world are: number 1, the Dragonborn Council is corrupt, but many other Dragonborn are not. The Dragonborn Council uses the threat of the 5 chromatic dragons to maintain their position. The chromatic dragons each reside in their own region of Iador, with the populace of each region living under their watchful eyes. The tribute makes life hard for the populace. The tribute is 20% of all earnings of all businesses and 10% of all wages earned by workers, collected at the end of every month and split between the council and the dragon's hordes. Item 5, or the 5th truth, is civil unrest is increasing, and the 6th truth is riots are becoming more common. So are there any questions about these campaign essentials that I just went through? Any questions at all?
Did you just say this is a serious campaign?
The in-game tone is serious.
That's it, I quit. I can't do this.
I fully expect immature behavior and randomness from my friends.
That's probably a good idea, because Chaos Gremlin is tattooed across my whole head.
Drunken Master Monk.
Well, I mean, every campaign we have has an in-game tone of being serious.
There's a serious goal or something at stake. Right.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Totally thorough.
Seriously.
That's...
How active in the world are the actual chromatic dragons? Are they just like like a presence?
Do they just stay in their little
or do they actually come out and burn villages or whatever it is they do to enact the will of the council?
They are largely they kind of stay to themselves for the most part. You know, it's rare that people will see one of the dragons flying through the sky in whatever region they happen to be in. You know, like the white dragon from White Province, for example. You know, you may see it flying around, every so often. But yeah, they don't really do a whole lot as far as you know. There's just sort of this ever-present threat. You see them once in a while on like extreme rare occasions throughout history. If there was some sort of a large threat to a region, and it caught the attention of that particular dragon, it would do something about it. But that hasn't happened in quite a while, and typically people just kind of live somewhat in fear of what
So it's
might
like
happen.
the head of the mob family that's only ever spoken about in whispers.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
And occasionally seen flying through the sky.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not something where they're just words; they actually do exist.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, people see them every so often, and throughout history they have made their presence known. They are real. They are exist. They are exist. They do exist.
I are exist.
I are existing.
They are real. Yes.
They're definitely real. Yeah.
To that note, dragons have long lives. I know it's been like 3,000 years since they came to be. Are these the same dragons that were original? Or are they descendants? Or do we know?
Stop poking at his plot hole, Sarah.
No.
I'm kidding.
That's not a plot
No,
hole.
I think it's a really cool question. I would say that the majority of the populace of Iador is not really sure.
Okay.
There may be some.
They're that mysterious that we wouldn't know.
You could probably do a lot of digging to try to find out. But most people just kind of go about their lives being like, yeah, there's dragons.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not exactly sure. I would probably say that most people assume that the dragons that are ruling over the different regions of Iador, that they have been around since the beginning of dragons. Most people make that assumption, but nobody has
Really
really
knows.
confirmed that. Yeah.
It's less important who the dragons are and more important that there are dragons. Essentially. Right?
Yeah. Any
How
other
old do turtles really get to be?
any other questions about that sort of campaign essential stuff?
How prominent are the civil unrest situations? Like, is it where there's people always fighting in the streets, or is it something where, in going through your daily situations, that occasionally you'll see, people running around looting or what have you?
I would say that the day-to-day lives of people on the continent of Iador is pretty normal. There's just kind of like this Cold War tension that just kind of exists all the time between the chromatic dragons and the populace. And if people just kind of like, do their daily jobs and don't make anybody angry or upset, things are fine.
But there's an air of like, if somebody steps too far out of line, anything could happen at any time.
And you hear about it more so than you see it, right? As that kind of...
No, I would say that riots have become more common in recent years, and the Dragonborn that used to patrol like in pairs are patrolling groups of 6 now, and I would probably say like if I had to maybe put an average on it, I would say maybe like once every few months or so, there's some sort of a major problem where you get like a group of people that are just so fed up with the council and the tribute that there's some kind of a conflict between the Dower Guard, who are the Dragonborn that kind of patrol around the city and stuff like that, and there's some kind of like a big riot, and then they're called in sometimes to try to quell the riot. Sometimes they are part of the riot. It depends on what it is. I'd probably say once every 4 months or so, there's some kind of major drama somewhere in Iador that involves some kind of a riot, and people.
Write that down. If 4 months goes by without a riot, we need to figure out what's going on.
Cause riot.
No. We need to cause a riot. Yeah, that's better.
Start a riot! Okay, got it.
But it used to be like many years ago, like hundreds and hundreds of years ago, there were no riots. People just were like
Every 6.
people were like so afraid, so afraid of the Dragonborn Council calling down the dragons that people just kind of stayed in line. But after centuries and centuries and centuries of the tribute and feeling in fear of the dragons, people are just starting to get fed up, and there are more and more riots happening in recent centuries. But I mean, you could go months at a time and just everything is just kind of fine. So there's like that tension in the background. People just kind of go about their business, trying not to make the Dragonborn Council upset. But most people get along fine as long as you kind of stay in line and obey the laws.
Are there like public executions and stuff?
No, there's no public executions now. No. I mean, sometimes when the Dower Guard get called in and there's a problem, people like get thrown in jail. Occasionally, people aren't seen again, but typically people just are in jail for a very long time, and people are released. People don't just like get in trouble and disappear forever. It just happens every so often that it's like somebody is never seen from again, but mostly people just get thrown in jail, and they spend a lot of time in jail, and then they're released, and everything's fine. Occasionally, when they have the riots, people get killed, and nobody really does anything about it because it's the Dragonborn Council, so they just kind of move on. So I mean, again, all the more reason people historically have tried not to get, I've tried not to come into conflict with the Dragonborn Council.
Right.
Out of sight.
But they're just getting so sick and tired of it
Out of mind.
in recent years. They're like, somebody's got to do something. Anything else?
Oh, good.
For now, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we still got a lot of stuff to cover, and we got lots of time. So my second item here is the campaign length. I'm estimating this campaign will last about a year. I mean, that's just a rough estimate. I would like to provide opportunities for other DMs to run games, which we've been doing with Tomb of Annihilation and Candlekeep and Greg's.
Because DM Chris needs a break every now and then.
Yeah, I want to break. I mean, I love running, but would like to have like a break. So, so in that regard, I'm going to kind of alternate back and forth between running homebrewed, sort of more story-focused campaigns. Like I'm giving you guys kind of like an objective at the beginning of this, which I haven't done in the past. This is the first time I've ever in my career been like, this is kind of like the general idea of the campaign. This is kind of the general goal.
Chris is railroading us already. We haven't even started.
I mean, it always ends up that there's some obvious big direction, right? Even
Eventually.
if it shows
yeah.
up later.
Yeah, but I usually don't like put it out there at the beginning of the campaign.
In this case, the world building has made it blatant that there's an issue, right? So,
Right. So basically, what my hope is that I'll run like,
Violence and tyranny inherent in the system.
whereas Spacefarers went 2 years and 8 months, I'm like, I'd like to maybe run for about a year, let somebody run something, and then I'll run another campaign, and then let somebody run something. We'll kind of alternate back and forth. So with regard to my more story-focused, somewhat shorter campaigns, character backgrounds may be a little harder to incorporate, whereas like I had all this time with Spacefarers to get like all your backstories included in there in some way. It may be a little bit harder with the shorter story-focused campaigns, but I would like you to still make backstories, because number one, it helps with your role play and your character design.
That is already done.
But you are not obligated to do that.
I keyed. You know I like a backstory.
And one thing which I would like all of you to do is during the first actual adventure, I'm going to ask everyone to narrate a flashback of their character during a pivotal moment in their character's life. I mean, this can be anything that you want. You're just going to be like, okay, so when my character was this age, this really important thing happened that set me on the path of doing this. It doesn't have to do with it doesn't necessarily have to do with like the rule of the Dragonborn or the Chromatic Dragons. You know, it can be just something that made you decide to be an adventurer, something that made you decide to be, that's when I decided to be a warlock, or whatever it is. I just kind of want to have you guys come up with a flashback that talks about some important moment in your character's life. And it can be about anything that you want it to be about. I just think it'll be fun to have you guys narrate a little bit about a pivotal moment in your character's life.
That could be interesting, because I'm playing the most vanilla character.
I mean, if somebody really feels super uncomfortable, I'm not going to force you to do that.
No. I think
But it would be nice.
I think it's cool.
And then at the end of the campaign, what I'll probably do is I'll have what's called 1 year later, where when we're doing the last session, I'll ask each of you what your character does over the course of like the next year. You can just kind of make it up. I mean, we did that at the end of Spacefarers. People talked about what they thought the character was doing. It's basically just the same thing.
Bold of you to assume we'll survive.
I mean,
Definitely.
if your character is still alive.
In memoriam for old characters too. Yeah.
Are you all standing at my grave? Do you come to visit? That's a good question.
So let's see. I think that's
Is it in strawberry fields?
Forever.
that is my number 2 item, which was campaign length. Is there any questions about the shorter story-focused campaigns, or about narrating pivotal moment in your life, or 1 year later at the end of the campaign? Any concerns? Any questions?
Pivot.
Pivot.
Pivot. I did actually do that in my backstory.
Oh, good.
Actually,
You pivoted?
Yeah, I mean,
No,
if you wrote a backstory and you want to pull something out of it and just tell me about it as your pivotal moment, that's perfectly fine. So we're good on that stuff?
I'm good.
Okay. So my 3rd item here is streamlining combat encounters. This is just a personal thing of mine that I wanted to try out. So, we typically get about approximately 2 hours of actual playtime out of our 3-hour sessions. I'd like to try to get just a little bit more out of that by streamlining combat. So I'm going to implement these following rules, and I may make modifications to these rules over time as I see how well they do or don't work. And I always welcome feedback or suggestions if we get partway through the campaign and we're like,
Chris is on the Dragonborn Council.
this thing.
He's a dragon.
He's already rolled.
He's the black dragon, isn't he? He's actually Tiamat.
Let's see. So with regard to streamlining combat encounters go faster with low-level characters. So characters for this campaign will start at 1st level and go to 2nd level after the first full-length adventure. Then characters will gain a level every 3 adventures, which is something which we've done in the past. We're going to stick with that.
Cool.
Theater of the Mind combat is faster than using maps and miniatures, but I like using minis. I'll mostly be using maps and minis. I may use Theater of the Mind for some minor combat encounters to save time. We'll be using average hit points for characters and monsters. So characters will simply get the average hit die for their level.
Okay, so we won't be rolling hit die.
Won't be rolling hit dice.
Okay.
No, you're just going to get whatever the average is, and except that at 1st level you get maximum hit points.
Yeah.
As per usual. And you still get other hit point buffs, such as, Constitution or the Tough Feat or things like that. Sometimes I may choose to use average monster damage, which would be doubled for criticals. So if you hear me calling out the same damage number over and over again, that's because I'm just avoiding rolling, and I'm just using the average damage. And if they critical, I'll just double the average damage.
Yeah, I think I did that a couple of sometimes on the Curse of Strahd campaign, and it worked out fairly well, especially on the combats that I just you guys are going to just blast through this, so let's just do it and move on.
Yeah.
Or if there's mobs and stuff.
Yeah.
Large numbers of creatures, just go average works really well.
There is a variety of reasons why I may use that. So I'll take that as a case by case basis.
Okay.
So let's see, blah, blah, blah. So characters will still roll for damage. I thought about having people just do the average damage, but I'm not going to. Rolling is half the fun. So I'm going to let you guys.
Give us our math
I
rocks.
want to clickety clack my math rocks.
But please do me a favor and please roll. A lot of you do this already, but please roll your attack dice and your damage dice together. It's a minor thing, but it can save some time. For critical hits for players, this is a little bit of a change. We're simply going to be multiplying the damage by 2. So you're still going to roll damage regularly, but if you crit, you roll it, you're like, I got a crit. You add up the dice that you just rolled and just multiply it by 2.
Okay, so don't roll additional dice.
Don't roll additional dice. No.
I don't think it's going to be relevant for any of what people are planning to play, but feats that let you reroll runs 1s and 2s, I assume you do all the rerolls on your base damage and then double from that.
If you have feats and stuff or class features that let you reroll, I'm not going to say you can't use your class feature.
Okay, good, because I do have a class feature that lets me
Alright,
reroll.
was relevant.
Or you think you do. You might change your mind at the end of this session.
I might. Yeah, because halflings come with lucky. If I roll a 1 on an attack roll, I can
Derailing already.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Powers combined. Squirrel.
So
With the two squirrels on the side.
Might need to separate squirrels.
maybe.
I mean, he's a squirrel too.
Yeah, sorry, you're
So if you put him next to me, you're also in
Sorry,
bad
what?
shape. What?
What?
I am not a squirrel.
I have 3 ADH players.
He has
What?
3 ADHD players and Greg.
That just makes me sound like Greg.
Guess that makes you the
You are
responsible
the
one.
hottest player at this table.
I'm flaming myself.
Take her word for it.
So we will not be using flanking. But later in the session, though, we're going to discuss some alternative ideas for gaining advantage both in and out of combat. I have a couple of different ideas to use. So the more creatures a player controls, the more turns they have during combat, as I discovered during the Battle Royale.
something. Pixies, something.
Something.
So
I'd forgotten about that.
yeah, totally slowed down the Battle Royale.
I was sitting right there when that happened, and I was like, what the fuck? What are you doing to me, Chris?
Which that is a two episode
Battle Royale.
Battle Royale and the earlier episodes of our catalog. If you want to listen to that. So if you're playing a character that can summon, you can only summon and or control one creature, and they have average hit points from their stat block. The summon spells in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything are specifically designed to summon one creature. So those are a good option. The one exception to this rule would be like you could control two creatures if your class gives you a creature to control. Like if you're an artificer and you have a steel defender or something like that. But you also want to summon something. I wouldn't say no to that, but I would beg and plead for you to please be efficient when you take your 3 turns in combat. But I'd rather have people that have familiars or summoning creatures to just be controlling one other creature.
I just realized if our lineup doesn't change, we're going to be very caster light. So may not even be in. So somebody may not even be.
It
in
might
this
be a
year.
non-issue the way things are shaping up right now.
No, I mean, no one may have anything to do with
Area effects?
with
What?
Summoning.
summoning or familiars or
Very
companions.
different.
But
But-
that's
It's good to have it out
That's
there.
out
if
there.
we get-
Just in case you know.
You know, somebody may die and we have to replace the characters.
I volunteer as tribute. No.
So I will not be using the initiative board,
Oh,
which for our listeners this is something that we would set up behind me so people could see the initiative.
sad face.
And I will be asking for a campaign volunteer to collect initiative while I set up for the encounter. So while I'm putting the
Okay.
maps and the miniatures out, I'm going to have someone
She's
else
the one that always has the notes.
collect
I always write it
initiatives and then
down.
hand it to
We're
me.
going to be.
I thought we were talking about potentially having another player run the initiative board so we could still get for like the squirrel brains so we could look at it if we didn't get it all written down.
No, I think it's good for the squirrel brains to have to remember things.
So
It's
think
good
it's
for,
asking-
to
I think it's
flex.
asking a lot for the squirrel brains to have to remember things.
I know. I'm one of them.
I mean, I'm just if it ends up that we play a little bit and it's rocky, I'm okay with like running.
You know
it
what?
on the
If it
side,
helps
so
me
it's not
actually
in
remember to
Chris's hair.
take notes and remember
it.
things, I will
Yeah.
volunteer to run the initiative. Someone remind me that I just volunteered to run the initiative.
Don't let our listeners call you out.
Oh, I'll let our listeners call you out. Terry? You have permission to message me and call me out.
when I decided to do this in here to save time, I assumed that you would be the one who would volunteer.
Did you really?
I did.
Nice.
I said it's probably going to be Sarah.
We don't know each other very well.
We don't know each other at all. 20 years of friendship doesn't do that. Oh my god.
I
And
will tell you, it wasn't going to be me.
And I'll be using static initiative for monsters. They will always go on initiative count 13.
Oh.
So,
Lucky, lucky, lucky.
Or
Weights
unlucky.
things a little in your favor.
not necessarily. It's pretty much right in the middle.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about dex bonuses. Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So does that mean if there's multiple different monsters, they're all going to go in the same...
most likely I will have like every single enemy go on a 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's going to be different to get used to.
Well, it's basic. basically a variation of side initiative
Yeah, basically.
at that point.
And obviously, I mean, I love you guys. I trust you guys. Please don't try to exploit this rule. Like, oh, I know they're always going to go on 13. So
Right.
what can I do to break this? Like, please don't do that.
Is there sourcebook content
Looking
that
at
you're
you,
using that
Medicator.
provided that guidance?
What's that?
Sourcebook content, is this a lazy DM tip and trick that you're implementing or something in that flavor? Or?
I heard about this particular flavor from Mike Shea from Slap
Okay.
Flourish, yes.
All right,
But
cool.
he's not the only person that does
Okay.
that kind of a thing.
All right, cool.
But that's where I heard it from, yes.
Nice. Shout out.
Yeah.
Did you just now respond to my comment?
What's that?
We're looking at you, Medicator.
I only rolled a Dex 12, but I've got or Initiative 12, but I've got an inspiration, so I can try again.
I love you.
Love you too. This monk is more straightforward.
Yeah, Monk already has like a
Drunken
plus 15
Master is pretty
initiative anyway.
It's not the kind of cheese that
It's
it
just
has.
something to save the DM time.
Yeah.
If Kate is not going first on every round per usual.
Per usual.
I mean,
If you don't have
some
some sort of amazing dexterity modifier that gives you a 20-something on every initiative roll, I have a heart attack.
Kate does historically build dex-based characters.
Yes, that is her flavor of
I've shown
choice.
strength on other occasions. I
back
do
to the
prefer
minis,
Dex.
I-
not gonna
That is her
lie.
weapon of choice.
I'm thinking I just might not buy one if we're not going to use them really.
He said he's going to use them for major.
I'm going to use minis
encounters.
most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
But for minor encounters that really don't matter quite as much, I might just use Theory of the Mind.
Like the lightweight, easy encounters in an adventure,
You know, like when
as
we're
opposed to
in
the
the
big,
woods and
heavy
shit.
encounter in an
Some
adventure.
bunch of wolves attack us. And,
Yeah, I like using minis.
Yeah.
So, and I like using maps. I have like 22 of Loki battle map books, and I like using
sponsor
those.
us.
If you want a mini Greg, once you have your
I have
picked, I'll work
2 or
with
3
you
of
to
them
figure
now.
something out
Good.
because I'm happy
Awesome.
to paint and assemble. We'll see how quick it happens. But
Okay.
I need that crafty time.
I
back
can
in
always
my
like
life. I've
grab
been
a
missing
selection
it.
of minis from my minis, Greg, and you can pick one if you want, rather than having to go to Hero Forge. As much as we love Hero Forge, you don't have to go there
Please
and
sponsor
do
us.
all that kind of stuff.
We will take all the sponsors.
Every last one of them.
Are there any questions about that sort of streamlining combat stuff?
No.
In particular?
I
Something
think it's
got
going to
caught in my
take, it'll be
throat.
interesting to get used to, I think.
Yeah.
'Cause
No flanking. I think we did that for Tomb of Annihilation too, right? We didn't do flanking
Well, I
there.
think
so
we
that's
that's
did-
because everything was Theater of the Mind.
yeah. I mean, we've been getting
Zoom,
used to it in a sense anyway for that reason.
Everything on Zoom. We never had flanking on Zoom.
That's true,
With it-
because that was also all
Yeah.
theater.
With
Yeah.
the rogue in the party, flanking made it way too easy to get sneak attacks in anyway.
Yeah, spike damage for a rogue. Like, I mean, I'm really curious to see how a rogue would function when there's no flanking, because flanking is an optional rule in 5th edition. So it's like, so instead of the rogue sneak attacking like almost every single turn, maybe that's just spiking their damage way high.
There are different ways.
There are.
Depending on how you
Yeah.
build your rogue, there are
If
many
you
different
do
ways.
swashbuckler,
Right.
there's a lot of built-in tools. If
And the
you-
party can,
yeah.
and having a good party in
So maybe
Yeah.
choosing a rogue is a good idea for me,
If you do
because I
it-
can demonstrate the different types of ways to build a rogue.
Caster flavors of rogues with invisibility, for example.
I can't tell you how many times we've gotten into a fight and the minis are all in one big line because everybody's flanking. and it would just like, that's what would happen almost every time. And people would just keep, everybody get in a line. Okay, next combat, everybody get into a line.
yeah.
I'd like to see how things are mixed up. Like, I played a shield fighter, and it was like, if somebody within 5 feet of you gets attacked, you can interpose your shield. And then when I tried to play it, I was giving up flanking on the possible chance of being able to have one of my allies, have
Get
this,
in there and yeah.
and I'm like, but I want to flank, but I want to use my shield thing, and they contradicted each other. So and that's because flanking was the thing. So we'll try it and see how it goes.
Yeah, I've played with other groups that don't do flanking, and it's actually quite nice.
Okay, we will see how it goes.
Counterbalance is harder when you have that there. That's definitely.
It makes it more realistic, actually, in my experience.
So my 4th item here is character creation. We're not going to make characters right at this point, but I want to go over some of the basics, which I've given you guys in the in the Dragonbirth one sheet. So I created 3 new playable races. Gargoyles are winged humanoids with beaks, claws, and leathery wings who can turn themselves to stone. Root folk are sentient tree creatures who can extend their limbs. I am Groot. Shardlings are sentient constructs made from hard crystal who can refract light in many ways. People are going to have first level characters. First level characters, point buy for abilities, maximum hit points at first level. Knacks are a house rule that I'm using for this campaign. At first level, your character has a knack with a specific skill. Choose a skill that your character is proficient in for your knack. You gain a +5 static bonus to that skill, and you can treat a d20 roll of 9 or lower as a 10. So you will have a knack in one of your skills that you are proficient in.
And if you bork it, it's always a 10 or higher.
Yeah,
I don't want people to be able to
roguelike.
bork their knack.
Like,
It's-
I have a knack for performance. I'm always
Exactly.
going to be at least a 10.
It's a light version of expertise.
Kind of, yeah. Yep. So the following subclasses are not allowed. Peace Cleric and Twilight Cleric.
Oh, wow.
What? Counterbalance? No.
Chris found out how busted Twilight
He
Cleric
already
really
knew.
is.
When I told him I was
I
playing it
already
for
knew,
Greg's, he
yeah.
already knew and told me he wasn't going to allow it. Go. So. Twilight Cleric, that combat buff with the Twilight aura that gives everybody temporary hit points every round.
The reason everybody's
It's part of why we
survivors-
cheesed your combat so heavily is because of that buff.
Gotcha.
Yeah, at the end of our turns, we're reading 7 temporary hit points in your thing, and it's basically jacking up our hit point totals, like, by
An entire level?
Yeah, basically.
Massively.
Plus some for some of
Well,
us?
more than that, because basically you get that 7 back every
Every
turn.
turn,
Not to
Yeah.
mention sharing
So that's a huge hit
300-foot
point.
dark vision.
No wonder
matter
I
what
couldn't
races are in
hear
your
you.
party. Right? That actually would have been exceptional for Tomb of Annihilation with the dark vision skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, any questions about that list of stuff?
So how are the knacks? How are they? Or is that something you're going to have to keep track of?
You're gonna have to keep track of it on your own. Yeah.
There's ways to manually set that in D&D Beyond, though. So, like, you can pick one of the skills that you're proficient in, and I think you tap on it and, like, customize and add, like, a custom bonus or something to it. I think there is a way to do that, so it's not as much. You have to
There's
remember
2
it.
on here that you didn't mention. The monk and the silvery barbs.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
What's Silvery Barbs? I forget.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's
what that
actually a
is.
spell that bards use a lot.
It's a bard spell.
It's a bard spell.
Yeah, I'm gonna-
and it's actually really busted. I've used it.
I'm going to cover that under the game rules section.
Oh, okay.
But-
Sorry.
No, but
Check.
it is relevant to character creation, so I understand.
Okay.
But I will cover that.
No, it's like the monk one. We're going to talk about it later. But Chris
Yeah.
already reviewed that with me
Yeah.
when I said I was thinking about a monk, and I was like, I'm fine with that house roll. That's okay. Yeah.
So my next section here is magic items. Magic items will be very rare, and you won't usually find them in shops. The rules for crafting magic items are not allowed, but artificers can create magic items given to them from their class features. Potions of healing can still be bought at some apothecaries and shops, but in relatively small quantities. Even knowing all that info, I'd still like each player to give me a magic item wish list with 1 or 2 items on it, and I will try to work them into the game. Like when I was
Items
going
where
up.
AF. Okay. In my notes.
Of wish spell.
I think Strax gave Chris PTSD with all these strange things.
It's just like I have fond memories of being a teenager and playing D&D, and when my character got a magic item, it was like, oh,
Yeah, it was like the most wondrous thing of all.
it was so cool.
I would
so
like to
cool.
add dress with pockets to my
Yeah, absolutely.
magic item list.
Yeah, I mean,
Those fabulous
give me a wish list, and I will try to find a way to work it into the campaign.
I don't know if you... did I actually post that to our
You
channel?
did.
I don't remember.
We've shared it on the D&D Facebook
I know I've shared it
pages
before, but I recently
yeah.
came across it again. I'll send you the PDF.
Yeah, sure. Any questions with regards to magic items?
So in other words, don't expect to get one.
I mean, no, expect them to be rare.
I mean, it's just like when
Or
we
like rare item drops in dungeons and shit.
yeah, when we did Space Fairs, like the Rock of Brawl was this hub, and you could like buy magic items like just right on the rock and in the center of the campaign. And
But it's also like the center of wild space. Like
Right.
things
Yeah.
come there.
right, and Strax was doing making magic items and
Yeah,
things,
item
and
creation rules.
item creation rules and stuff like that. So I wanted to have more of that air of excitement and mystery and rarity.
Yeah, I'm assuming that you'll handle when we get
real
high enough in level that most things are going to be resistant to anything except magic damage type
I
stuff.
feel like
Right, and I don't want to do that and have you guys not have any magic items that can.
we've been scaling back from like points of light was probably the most egregious. Like you had a lot of fun giving us magic items starting very early on.
Yeah.
The power creep that happened as a result.
Imagine that. Something
I mean-
based on magic. The
was-
Gathering had magic
No,
items.
it was the points of light campaign. So
Oh,
it
okay.
was, but it was like a god level. You guys were going
Yeah.
to fight Vecna at the end of the campaign.
Yeah.
You needed those for how hard he was
Yeah.
going to make the encounters.
Yep, absolutely.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I got my campaigns
It's all
mixed
good.
up.
That's all good.
That I wasn't even in.
Innistrad was magical.
Yeah. Rael was awesome in that.
Actually. Actually, girl who wasn't here when we played those campaigns. Because I wasn't cool enough to be part of the group.
So item 6 is game rules. So let's talk about ideas for gaining advantage. So number 1 is inspiration, which is a part of the game. So I'm going to go over 2 different ways here. I'm going to go through inspiration and I'm going to go through luck points. So the inspiration variety of gaining advantage would be that as per the normal rules, you can only have inspiration once, but if you gain inspiration a second time, you can immediately give it to another character. Inspiration is awarded at the beginning of a session, that's a house rule, and for completing a long rest, which is a house rule. But you would get it at the beginning of a session and for completing a long rest. Inspiration would also be awarded for rolling a 1 when you roll a d20. If you roll a 1, you get inspiration, another house rule. And it can be given to someone else immediately or sometime later. If you have it already and you roll a 1 on something and you want to give the one you just gained to somebody else, or the one you already had, doesn't really matter. That's what you would do. And when using inspiration, we've usually used the rule where, like, if you roll a die and then you're like, I want to use my inspiration, and then you roll the die, another die. That's the rule that we use. It's not actually as it's written in the player's handbook.
You have to say it first.
You have to say it first and then roll the dice, but we've always just said, it's fine, whatever. If you want to just use it after you roll the first die, then go ahead and roll a second die, and we're going to stick with that rule.
All right. I mean, I could, just for a point of argument, I could
Yeah.
see that both ways, because if you're going to be giving out, because one of the reasons we did it that way is because inspiration was so rare.
True.
But if we're all going to be starting off with inspiration every session.
Okay. I mean, I can see that as being an argument.
Or
to say-
every time we orc hardcore.
Right.
Like,
It's a d20 roll of 1, right? Which that depends on the session. Some sessions you might do it 3 times, other sessions not at all, right?
Right.
It's variable. I like that. What was the fourth criteria?
So if we want to roll it, if you want to say that you have to declare it before you roll, since you'll get it more often, I'd be fine with doing it that way. If everybody thinks that that's a good way to do it.
Declaring before we
Yeah.
make a roll that
I
we're
mean,
gonna
I'm
use
fine
it.
with
Yeah, I'm
ratcheting.
okay with that.
I'm
I
fine
thought we
with
did that in
ratcheting
the
up the
tomb
difficulty a lot.
anyway, didn't we? I thought in the tomb we largely said that people had to declare it before they rolled.
I don't remember.
I don't think
Okay.
we got inspiration in the tomb like
Not
more than
much.
twice.
Occasionally.
I'd throw some out when somebody did something that made me laugh. But
Yeah, I do like that though, because if we use these rules, you'll be getting it more often.
Yeah.
So then you'll have to declare.
Sure.
before
So it's
you
at the
make
beginning of
roll.
each session when we roll in that 1 and
and after taking a long rest.
And
Those
after taking
3.
a long
I
rest.
thought was there a 4th one, or that was? I thought you listed something else off. I was trying to take notes on it.
Beginning of a session and a long rest, and when you roll a 1, and that's it.
Okay.
rules lawyering.
Yeah.
My lucky feat. I'm
Yes.
re-rolling my first 1 on an attack roll.
Yep.
Is that because I re-roll the 1, does that nullify the 1 and I don't get the inspiration? Or I rolled a 1, I get inspiration, now let me re-roll that.
I mean, why penalize your race, right? That's what
I
you
would
chose.
consider that not a
There's other features that your race doesn't get because it has that.
I mean, the racial. You're talking
Yeah.
about the halfling racial feature.
Yeah.
Yes.
So basically, you would be. That racial feature allows you to basically not have to deal with rolling a 1.
Yes. Well,
I would
up to
say
a
the
point.
feature makes it so that you're lucky enough that you didn't roll that 1. That 1 never happened.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I feel like you wouldn't get inspiration for that
Okay. I mean, that's fine. I just
because you're not being penalized for rolling a 1. Whereas I want it to be like, oh, you rolled a 1, that sucks. Here's inspiration.
Yeah.
But if you're like, oh, I rolled a 1, and then I re-rolled it, I'm not gonna reward you for re-rolling your 1.
Unless I roll another one.
Unless if you roll another 1, you can definitely get
You roll a
inspiration.
1, and then you roll another 1.
I have earned that inspiration.
You have earned that bork. bork, 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 bork.
Actually, I think it's really hard to roll a 1.
What
If you think
It is.
Oh, that's funny.
Rolling
It is.
a nat 1 is actually, as I found out as Janie, rolling a 1 through 4 is actually not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah, for your wild surge. James.
As a wild
Yeah.
surge, yeah.
Yep.
It wasn't as often as we thought it would
I
be.
always thought it was funny that it was like you rolled the ones like on initiative rolls, and then you get
Yeah,
your
I
actual
borked the initiative, and then I go do wild surge.
16, 17.
So let's talk about luck points. So my idea was that we'd probably use either inspiration with the rules that we just discussed, or we would use luck points. So luck points are every time a character misses with an attack or fails a saving throw, they gain a luck point. Not rolling a 1. Okay, if you make an attack roll and you miss, you get a luck point, or if you make a saving throw and you don't succeed, you get a luck point. You can only hold up to 5 luck points. If you gain a sixth luck point, you roll a d4, and that's how many luck points you now have.
So
I
encourage
think
you to
I
burn them.
It
prefer.
encourages you to burn them. Yes.
I prefer the inspiration.
Oh, wait, Kate.
Okay, continue.
I'm
Okay,
not
sorry.
done.
Okay, all right.
I love you. You can spend 1 luck point to get +1 to a d20 roll after you make the roll. And you can spend as many luck points as you want. So if you roll a 12 and you want to spend 4 luck points to make it a 16, go for it. You can also spend 3 luck points to just re-roll a 20. So that is luck.
Sure.
I mean, honestly, luck would be the luck rules would be really useful for like the people that have dex-based builds where they're missing on everything except the 1 and 2.
Right. Well, and I was thinking about the fact that system inherently kind of shorts the casters, which I'm not playing a caster, but
Right.
just thinking broadly of the whole table. Although on the other hand, it's like if you're playing a caster and you're doing area effects, you probably don't need those extra points to buff things up 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, right? So
Well, I mean, casters aren't making as many attack rolls, but
I'd be inclined to favor the inspiration system because it has broader and more creative benefits because you can use that on any type of roll, whereas the luck points you can
A
only
luck
apply
point
to
can
very
be added to
specific
any type of
thing.
roll, too.
doesn't really help
To,
for casters.
to any
that-
d20 roll.
Yeah.
Any d20 roll.
But like,
that
like
that
the,
includes skill
Skills,
checks.
yeah.
Yeah.
Skills, yeah.
I would lean towards that if you can also use a luck point to decrease like an enemy's saving throw. Otherwise, casters that have all these, save, they just
Save-based
cast
things,
for
yeah.
saves,
Yeah.
don't get any benefit from that, from luck points.
So if you could like spend 3 luck points to give the creature -3 on their saving throw against
yeah.
it.
but also those
Like I
casters
had
aren't.
a lucky shot.
They're not going to be able to accrue luck points because a caster who's using largely save-based things, they aren't going to be missing on attacks. Failing saving
No,
throws is
it's on a
very
miss or
situational.
fail of a saving throw.
Right, but that's them failing the saving throw, not the enemy that they're casting the spell on.
Right, but
Yeah.
but there are lots of
Enemies that are going to be throwing saving throws at them.
I find that's situational.
also, I mean, and people use cantrips all the time, like Eldritch Blast, and they're making attack rolls, and if they miss with their Eldritch Blast, they're getting luck points.
I feel like the casters get shorted a bit by it. I feel the inspiration is more of a holistic system. That's just my gut check
definitely
on
see
it.
what you're
Yeah,
saying,
yeah,
Kate,
yeah.
and I kind of agree. I think the difference, like I said, using luck points to decrease an enemy's saving throw against your thing would be the equivalent of adding 3 to an attack
What's
roll.
Greg's opinion?
And that that'd be about the same.
Cut, wash it out a little bit. Yeah, there's some
I
differences.
honestly don't really know.
You don't have an opinion one way or the other?
I think they're both equal in terms of what you might get out of them. Maybe,
I mean, do you see what the point we were saying about the casters?
yes.
It's funky. It's a little bit different if you're a caster.
Yeah, because I am going to, because if I do end up playing the bard, I'm going to be making a lot of casting. Almost all my spells are I cast this. Do they save against it?
Right.
I would have if you guys decide to go with luck, I would have I would allow what you described. I would allow you to give penalties to saving throws using luck.
I think that was how the sorcerer's ability to do that D4 lucky thing was at her like 15th level ability.
Yep.
She could both give her teammates a D4 plus or take away from an enemy's save. I believe that's how it worked with Janie.
I guess the question with the bard is like, are you innately in your playstyle going to be doing spells that are attack rolls, or occasionally making attacks with your knives? Because otherwise,
He doesn't
you
know
are,
that yet.
Yeah, right. That's right.
He can't know that yet. That's
probably-
future John's issue.
Basically, yes.
But I mean, that would be the challenge. Is if your particular style of play settles that you are doing those things, and short of when you fail a saving throw, you're not going to get the luck points.
I guess my
Can we give them to other players?
No, that wasn't. That's not part of the luck system.
Okay,
no.
because that would be the other thing that would kind of equalize, is if we did have
can't
the
give
ability.
away your
but,
luck,
yeah,
honey.
Yeah.
Can't be like, I didn't rub my luck off on
we
you.
do with inspiration.
My
right?
question
so
would
it's like,
be
why?
this.
You can inspire somebody
Yeah.
else, but you can't
Yeah.
rub your luck off on someone else.
Well, sorry, go
You
ahead.
can only do that in the movies.
I was going to say, my question would be this. In our style of play, which do you feel has more weight in terms of resources and or actual added advantage to the game?
I feel like in our style of play, luck points is going to cause us to do more meta shit. Because we figure out the AC quickly, we figure out the saving throws quickly, and we do the numbers because we're all math people.
I'm not a math person.
And this is
But we figure it out, and she'll tell you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're too short.
Medicate will be like, just add +3 to that, and you'll pass it. No offense. I
tactics,
think,
man. If we're
I
gonna
think
take
the
flanking,
inspiration
other tactics.
system is more of a, you're not going to be sure if this is going to be helpful or not, but if you're feeling nervous about this roll, it can help up your chances.
Yeah.
I'm also,
And with the inspiration system being more frequent, actually getting it, it's not going to be as, oh, wow, inspiration. I never get that.
I'm also leaning towards inspiration, A, for simplicity.
Sure.
It's using existing mechanics,
Sure,
and it doesn't
sure.
end up with a whole bunch of weird edge cases.
Sure.
And B, it'll really help our rogue.
So that's two votes for inspiration.
I vote for
Like,
inspiration.
3 votes for
A
inspiration.
lot of times I would never use my inspiration because I was afraid I wouldn't get it back ever again.
I gotcha.
So I would use it more with the knowing I'm going to get one at the beginning of each game.
And one addition, probably going to be end up with one, maybe two additional backstabs per session is not a huge deal.
Okay, so the majority of the people at the table want inspiration.
Yeah.
Okay. So we will use inspiration, and because you get it more frequently, we'll say you have to declare it before you make the roll.
Before you roll.
I think that's fair.
Okay. So
So it is a bit of a gamble as to whether it will be helpful or not.
Right, because sometimes you roll
that's-
a 1 and a 2, right?
That
We've
is the
done
nature.
that.
That is the nature.
Yeah.
If you're not gambling when you're playing D&D,
More
you're
than
not
one of
playing
us
D&D
at
right.
this table has used advantage and rolled a 1 and a 1. I'm looking at you, Chris.
And a really cool plot situation on that.
So since we're choosing inspiration, I have gifts for all of you.
Oh. Oh.
So these are inspiration markers. So for the listeners, these are wooden circular discs that have a finish on them, and they say inspiration, and they have like designs burned into them.
Dark finish.
And everybody gets to choose one, and they're going to basically put a 20-sided die in that circular piece of wood.
It's made to fit a D20.
To me, yeah, it's made
Oh,
to fit
that's
a
so
D20.
cool.
Can't fit my Megazord.
And
Always have to find the problems, don't you?
and I have inspiration dice, although you don't need to use these. But I have red and black inspiration dice.
Clickety clack.
On the 20, they say yeah.
Yeah. And on the on the 1 it says fuck. I'm gonna go with a black one. Or do we get one of each?
You just get to
That
choose.
goes red.
You get to choose black or red.
Fuck yeah.
Explicit.
I might buck the trend.
We have a warning on the website, man.
Explicit for Sarah.
Hi, it's me. I'm the problem.
I'm the problem
me.
sometimes,
Hi.
It's all right.
but more in a subtle way than an over-the-top way.
I'm the problem. It's me.
So you guys can use whatever die you want for that little inspiration disc, but I just thought those would be funny.
That is cool.
I just rolled that right into
Everybody
Nice.
agrees.
Okay, so we're using inspiration, but you have to declare it before you roll it. Okay.
that. See, I can't
Got
even
it.
make that happen again. I rolled a dice and it went right in there.
Oh, I've rolled 2 6s and a 4 with it so far.
Yeah!
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 6 6 4 20.
420.
420. Oh.
But that's okay. I mean, our custom races are basically a tree, getting stoned, and crystal.
Okay, so counterspell.
Okay with that.
Continuing with the rules. Counterspell, casters. If you're playing a caster, you have to say the name of the spell and its level every time you cast it, regardless of whether or not you've got like an enemy wizard or something. You know, just say I'm casting a 3rd level fireball. You know, 1st level, just always say the level, so it just makes it easier in case counterspell is a thing. And you know, the opposing caster will say, I'm doing a 3rd level counterspell or a 4th level counterspell. You just got to say your spells with the level. Just makes it easier.
Then I can say, I'm doing a 5th level counterspell to counterspell your counterspell.
Exactly. The ready action cannot be taken outside of combat. That was just something I saw come up. I think I heard about it in a podcast or something. People are trying to ready something when there isn't a combat going on, but that's intended for to happen during combat. Okay, so we are back. We just took a little bit of a break, and we have a little 6-month-old Sebastian with us at the table
Not
now.
as little anymore.
So I had just gone over
Your butt.
the ready action and grappling. An opposed check is required to move a creature you are grappling. You can't just move them per the regular rules. You have to make an opposed strength check to move them. The spell Silvery Barbs is not allowed. Monks can only use Stunning Strike on 1 attack per round, and only when they take the attack action on their turn. Let's see. Because of spells like Power Word Kill and Sleep, both of which reference hit points. This is sort of a question. Should the DM know how many hit points a character has? Are they above the table for online play? I mean, they are above the table when using D&D Beyond to run encounters. So, like, for example, if I'm running the encounter on D&D Beyond, which I don't do, but if I did, I'd know what your hit points were. And
Yeah.
like, if Power Word Kill says if you have 100 hit points or less, you know, then you die. And it's like, as the DM, I would know what your hit points were. And, you know, I don't want to cheese it. I don't want to be cheesy, but at the same time, like you all know what your character's hit points are. We don't like mask that. If somebody says, how many hit points do you have? You can just say, I have 25 hit points left. So I wanted to get the group's input on whether or not I, as the DM, or anybody who's the DM, should know what the character's hit points are. Because there are spells that say, if they have this number of hit points, then this happens.
Yeah, and that's always been an interesting question just for DM metagaming in general. I mean, can a DM even metagame? That's an interesting question. Philosophical question, no, we don't have to get into right now.
Philosophical John is philosophicaling.
For instance, it was a similar question of counterspell, which you're going around by saying, the person has to declare what the level of the spell is they're
Correct,
saying.
yes.
But previously, that didn't happen, and counterspell was always just kind of a gamble.
Right.
Yeah, like if I was going to counterspell the DM, I didn't know if I was going to be casting high enough or not.
So the question is, how much of a gamble? I mean, should it be the same? Should the DM be making the same gamble that the players are on those kinds of situations?
I'm of the mindset that yes, because we don't know.
We don't know how many
Big
hit
bads,
points
how
the
many
big bad
hit points
has.
they have left.
Right.
Like, yeah.
So unless you want to display how many hit points the enemies have, it's
So how does this? So like, if you guys are running encounters in D&D Beyond,
That's an interesting practical question.
and you can see what the character's hit points are, and you have power word kill, ready to go, you know exactly
But
who you can
we,
kill.
as the players, can't run the encounter in D&D Beyond.
Understood. But like, basically, it sounds like if you're running D&D Beyond, the DM has the ability to metagame and be like, I'm going to kill this character. And I don't like that idea.
I mean, this was relevant specifically to Matisse in the last campaign, in the final encounter. Chris cast that spell knowing it would work. So, that's
But I was tracking people's hit points.
you were. Yeah, but again, it's kind of, we don't have that same tool as players, so it's kind of, it is a tricky gray area. That's the only point I'm making.
Yeah, and I'm just asking
Yeah.
for people's thoughts. Like, what do you think?
I think that's something that D&D Beyond might want to look into fixing.
I don't know. I mean,
Because that's something that a DM should think about as a ethical issue.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
devil's advocate, though, the DM should be allowed to metagame in order to move the story forward and to.
No, I mean,
Yeah, in
that's
order
true
to
because
run
they
the
are
game.
the puppet master.
Right. So
Master of puppets.
again, that then comes down to a question of how much do we trust the DM,
And
of
knowing
course-
what our levels are, they
Yeah.
would normally have a general idea of where our hit points are
Right.
anyway.
And in our case, we
But-
don't trust the DM at all, so we need to do something about that.
Yeah, it's difficult because like one of the steps that a lot of people take before they run is they'll review the characters.
We do generally, as a group, every time we level up, update what our hit points are, what our
Right.
ACs are,
Right.
and where our
Some of it is-
passive insights are
Right.
for you, so that you know where we're starting at every encounter.
Right.
Generally, so
So it sounds like you all agree that basically like D&D Beyond. I don't use D&D Beyond, so I guess that's not much of an issue for this campaign. And I do hand around a sheet to everybody for the sake of the listeners that has them put their hit points and their armor class and their passive perceptions on it. So I will continue to basically, I'm not going to ask you how many hit points do you have left. I'm not going to do that. I might have a general idea because I have
though
the sheet.
at the table, sometimes we do go on a scale of 1 to 34. I'm at about a 12.
Sure,
If we choose to
sure.
share that, though, that's our choice.
And we declare when we're bloody.
Shared it.
Yeah.
We do.
I would think, though, that all of us here have not been very secretive about what our hit points are.
It is relevant for some things too. Like Chris has played bad guys where it's like if you're bloody, it gives them different abilities. If you're at quarter hit points, it gives them different abilities. So sometimes as a DM, he does need that tool to play characters with
Well-
more depth of flavor, right? Yeah.
I don't. I mean, you can maybe remind me, but I don't remember ever having anything that
Cops
specific.
had that ability. If you were bloody,
If you're bloody,
he could
okay.
take
If you're bloody,
a quarter of your hit points with if he made you fail a save.
Yeah,
He's
or even
second
just
blood.
or even just casting a simple spell like sleep, which is going to be on my repertoire.
I mean, so we're gonna go with the idea that the DM is not supposed to know the exact number of hit points that you have, and that he'll have to guess, just like you guys have to guess if the monsters have a certain number of hit points.
Yeah.
It
So
could be
what-
an
so-
interesting play as long as it doesn't become too much DM versus players.
No, which I don't want to do. I really don't want to have that happen. And so we'll just leave it the way it is to let people guess. Sarah brought up the idea of the counter spell. I mean, are people okay with doing it above board like I suggested, or would you rather change it back to guessing?
I'm okay with it being above the board.
Okay.
Although, I mean, I don't think it'll be much of an issue in this campaign.
Yeah, I mean, I think the official rules are you can make an Arcana check to get that information, but that's something that tends to slow down the game.
There is something that came up, I think, in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything or something, where they gave rules where you could use your reaction to make an Arcana check to tell what level the spell was, and I'm just like, that just adds more,
Yeah, it's
more
just
stuff.
way
Then
too-
you need a second
Funky
caster. So even if
mechanics.
someone make the check and someone cast the spell, right?
Which is why I just said, why don't we just say the level of the spell?
I think I have no problem in like meta level envisioning that like you can generally tell if you're a magician and someone else is casting what strength they are preparing to cast with, right?
Yeah.
Like that to me.
So are we?
is not
are-
much of a
Yeah, I would
stretch.
think.
Yeah,
I would think
yeah.
on a general basis,
Yeah.
as a caster versus caster, you can tell
They're
in a
gathering
battle,
lot of mana, right?
how
They're gathering a lot
strong
of
they
chi,
are
yeah.
and where they're at in the midst of a throwdown.
Yeah.
Like
Okay, so we will keep the counterspell rule the way it is, and we will say that the hit points are not above board.
Right.
Okay, sounds good.
And for when we're calling into each other for like somebody tells me I need healing, it'll just be up to you to tell me I need healing.
Sure.
And try not to be too greedy with that. Oh no, I got a scratch. I need healing. Just,
Right. Oh.
I don't think anyone's like that.
If we choose to say something out loud about our hit points or if we're bloody, then obviously there's a common sense. Like everybody at the table is going to be able to glean what that means, right?
Right.
If you tell the DM I only have 5, if you tell your other ally you have 5 hit points, the DM deserves to have that knowledge too.
yeah.
Sure.
You just saw it.
So
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
sounded goodeth.
So let's discuss item 7, which is table rules. So dice that are dropped by accident or that roll off the table or out of a dice tray must be re-rolled. Cell phone usage, which this is all pretty standard stuff for us, is not allowed except if you have something serious that you need to attend to during the session. Just let me know, and so I know what
I have no idea what you're talking about.
She says as she holds her
Strike
cell
the
phone
balance.
up to her
I'm
chest.
taking a photo, or I was.
So hold on. So if you want,
That's relevant.
If you have something serious, just let me know so that I know you're tracking it. If you want to secretly communicate something to somebody at the table without saying it to them, that's relevant to the adventure. That's fine. If you want to take pictures, which I love Sarah because she takes pictures for our Instagram, so that is perfectly fine as well. For all the reasons, please don't be on your phone.
common sense. Yep.
Common sense stuff.
Just courtesy. Yep.
If you're please only eat snacks during our break. If you are super behind on food and you're desperate for snacks, please don't eat like potato chips or have like packages that crackle and make all kinds of noise when you open them. But in general, if you could please
I will
try
make
to
sure to bring all of my crackling snacks.
if you
My
could
dice
please try to
rolls.
keep snacking to before we start and then during the break and then after, that would be great. That's it for table rules. There's Sebastian.
I would like to request that we do not bring babies to the table.
I would like to request that we bring more babies to the table.
Oh,
All right,
no.
I cast baby.
are you
philosophy.
offering
I think there are babies at the table. Or no?
eyebrows, John?
Okay, so item number 8 is playing a person down, which this hasn't been a huge issue, but like if someone is going to miss a session, and the baby burps. If someone is going to miss a session and a reschedule is not possible, we will play a person down on our usual Sunday, and I may invite a guest player to kind of sit in for that session. And if we reschedule a session and someone can't make the reschedule, then we'll just play on the rescheduled day a person down, possibly with a guest player.
Yeah, I mean, if something happens on the day of, you're
Right.
probably not going to get a guest player. But
Probably not. Right. But yeah, but if we reschedule and someone still cancels at the last minute because life happens, then I'd still like to be able to play.
what do you mean? D&D is life.
Hell yeah!
So item number 9 is safety tools. And a lot of Session Zeros use safety tools as a way to make sure everyone will feel safe and comfortable playing in a particular adventure or campaign. Safety tools often include discussions about things like, not having torture in a campaign or sexual assault or any variety of other sensitive topics.
I don't feel safe right now. Kate is trying to look at my notes.
Oftentimes, game masters will even use one of many available checklists. Because we are all good friends who have been gaming together for years, I haven't really felt the need to do this, but it couldn't hurt, and I would like the listeners to gain the benefit of knowing what safety tools for a Session Zero are. They're mostly for running games online with people you don't know, or when starting a new group. You want to make sure that people are aware of what's going on, and
You never know what's going to trigger something.
we're going to discuss safety tools with regards to something called lines and veils, which is it's a very common theme with safety tools. So lines are things that are not crossed, and veils are things that you might hear about, but you don't experience them directly. So lines for this campaign that will not be crossed are as follows. No player versus player combat or inter-party betrayal. That's just something from the DM. But there won't be any violence toward children. There won't be any sort of themes of sexual assault or animal cruelty or torture. Veils would be something like torture could be veiled off screen, meaning, somebody might talk about somebody having been tortured, or you may find a non-player character who looks like they've suffered from being tortured or something like that. But I don't want to do anything that's going to make anyone really uncomfortable. And if at any time any of you feel uncomfortable with anything, I want you to let me know. And I'm instituting a rule that is just sort of a formalizing of the idea of basically saying, hey, I'm not comfortable with this, which is the idea of pause for a minute. So if something triggers you, if I talk about a house fire and you're in a house fire and you're like, oh my God, you can just say, can we pause for a minute? And choose to talk about a game, talk out of game about a topic or a concern. It could be something as simple as the adventure has a lot of bloody, body horror, and someone's like, no, I'm not really into this right now, it's making me uncomfortable. You can just ask to pause for a minute. If something in the adventure reminds someone of something really sad, particularly if something just happened in your life and something comes up that's similar and you're getting emotional, just please ask us to pause for a minute. It can be used if there's tension, if there's any kind of tension between players or the DM and a player and things are getting kind of heated, we can be like, all right, let's pause for a minute.
That never happens between you and I.
No, never.
No, never.
One of us has been on the edge and weirdness happens because one of the three.
It's life, it's life, man.
Yeah.
It happens. So I'm
Makes for the best dramatic role play.
I'm just formalizing this idea of pause for a minute.
Okay, so that's
Absolutely.
our safe word.
That's kind of the safe word.
I gotta write that on the top of my notepad.
Pause for station identification.
On the spine.
So the very last thing that I have here is I just have a topic that says further development, which is just me asking for general ideas and suggestions. I mean, if there's anything about what we already talked about that you want to go over again, if there's any ideas that you just want to throw at me, this is just open discussion right now.
Is it only ideas I'm allowed to throw right now?
Yes.
Darn.
Unless you want to throw chocolate donuts, that would be okay.
The one chocolate donut we had is already been
There's
consumed.
a double chocolate on the counter, so I'm going to get chocolate frosted, so if you're craving it.
No.
Do you want to throw babies in me?
I'm fine. Sarah's going to take a baby.
Lowered you for a second, then he spits up on you. I apologize. Whoa. He's starting to push into standing on
Bang
there.
the table.
That was just his foot. It's all good. Is there anything anybody else wants to discuss that we talked about or that we didn't talk about? Anything at all? Any questions? Character creation, I figure might be a topic. Any questions at all about anything?
As we go through and come up with our character concepts, I think most of us kind of have an idea roughly. Are you planning to institute NPCs to fill in holes in party formation or anything like that, or?
It sort of depends on what your party dynamic is. If you have no healers, I will find a way to give you some kind of healing. That's the main thing in my brain. Where if I'm running a campaign and the party has no healing of any kind, I'll usually try to supplement that in some way. Outside of that, I will probably not have a dedicated party NPC. I may change my mind.
Can Sebastian run the NPC?
Sebastian could maybe run the NPC.
Healer baby.
Healer bot.
So right now, John, I'm not planning on having
Rage baby.
I'm not planning on having a dedicated NPC in the party.
Okay.
But if a hole needs to be filled in some way, I may reconsider that idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think right now we're shaping up for one bard, so a partial healer in the party.
Yeah, so no
Honestly, it's fine.
GH 2024.
No golem of healings. I could give magic items. I could, we had the, what was it, in Points of Light, we had the light bearers, and they could give temporary hit points to each other and stuff like that. I'll look at the party composition and then decide from there. And I like running NPCs sometimes, but it's also a lot more work.
It is, yeah.
So we'll kind of see how it goes. Sarah's really liking baby time right now.
My nose is being discovered.
So, all right. So people are good as far as everything goes with regards to all the random subjects that I brought up.
Yarp.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest questions were, what level were we starting off and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
First
I'm
level.
pretty much
First
good
level
to
max
go.
hit points. Point buy for abilities.
Yep.
Okay. So why don't we do just a tiny little bit of something to kind of kick off the adventure part of the campaign. So, as our adventure begins, the date is Chargaroth 16th, 3252 AD. Each of your characters was born with a birthmark reminiscent of a dragon's claw. From the time you reached adulthood, you've had recurring dreams that are difficult to describe. These dreams are blurry with flashes of teeth, claws, and wings. You have always felt as though you were destined for a greater purpose. To that end, and possibly for other reasons, you decided to become an adventurer. You are in search of your destiny, and you will do whatever it takes to find out exactly what that destiny is and how to bring it to fruition. So you all live on the island continent of Iador in the capital city of Shakar. You do not know each other. Individually, you each take on a variety of small jobs to make money. If you guys want to say you know each other, we can always retcon that. Right. These jobs include such things as escort duty, deliveries to dangerous areas, and perhaps clearing a graveyard of a few shambling undead. Having an adventuring party would allow for better paying jobs, and your hope is to find like-minded individuals to seek out adventure with. There are many job boards in the city that offer opportunities for such adventurers, but so far, you've done things on your own. Yesterday, when you returned to your living quarters, you found a note with a bag of 100 gold pieces. The note read, "Meet behind Barton's Provisions at midnight." Where the signature would be, there was a symbol that matched your birthmark. It is now midnight. You all arrived behind Barton's Provisions to see a door with a parchment on it bearing the symbol of the birthmark. You are now in the back room of Barton's Provisions. The room is 20 foot square with a table and chairs. There is a door in the north wall. A human male enters the room and closes the door behind him. He is about 6 feet tall, thin, maybe in his early 40s, wearing common clothes. He has short brown hair with gray at the temples and a day's worth of stubble on his face. He seems a little worried. With a cautious look on his face, he takes a look at all of you and says, "I am Barton. Please show me the birthmark."
It's a little private.
It's very important.
How do you know of this?
All will be explained very shortly, but you have to show me the birthmark.
All right.
I look around at these strange people around me that I might have seen on the street every now and then,
You might have seen him, yeah.
or at the random
At the job
places that
boards, yep.
adventurers go. But
Yep.
I'm like, what do you mean?
I'm halfway tempted to just drop try.
My character just kind of like
You can say your
smiles and
birthmark
laughs.
is on your
This
butt if you want.
Giant 7 foot tall female tree, right? It's just like suit yourself, and just like turns her shoulder, and on the back of her shoulder, there's the claw mark. So for those who are feeling hesitant, you can now see that she has something that matches what we all
I do
saw.
drop my trousers.
What did you say the birthmark looks like again? I'm sorry.
It is a dragon claw birthmark.
Okay, like the dragon hands claws?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's on my leg.
Just looks like a single claw.
You drop trouts on your leg.
my thigh.
Okay, so do you
thigh.
keep your underwear on?
Yes.
Okay.
This is a PG-13 rated show.
Is it?
Explicit.
No, we are explicit.
Explicit.
Yeah, we are. I think it's rated M for my.
Well, then I let your imagination
my.
go.
When the impressionable
Where
toddler
is
is here,
where?
we're a little more.
It's rated S for
clamped
Sarah.
down, but
Seriously. It's rated S for
It is in a-
seriously, Sarah.
The birthmark is in a strategic place. Whether or not I have undergarments on, it does not matter.
Okay.
Nice. We broke Sarah.
I lift up my shirt and it's on my rib cage.
Okay.
Stole my idea.
Okay.
Yours could be on your rib cage too. I wasn't aware that anybody else had this.
I will explain everything in just a moment. Can you please show me your birthmark? He motions to you, John. To your character.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Okay, and mine will be on my upper arm.
Okay. Barton says,
I caved.
Thank you. Thank you. I needed to be certain you were the right individuals. I need your help. He opens the door behind him and whispers the name Ophelia. A human woman, perhaps 18 to 20 years old, comes into the room. She has long brown hair and is wearing common clothes. Barton says, the rule of the Council of Scales must end. They must not be allowed to oppress Iador any longer. My daughter Ophelia is the key. You must help her. You must help us. You must help all of Iador. He turns to his daughter and says, show them. She pulls her hair behind her shoulders. Clearly visible on her neck is the dragon claw birthmark. And that's where we'll end right now. So.
Okay.
We'll pick up there with the first full-length adventure next time that we play.
Nice.
Wow.
Okay. I wonder if you can send us that text, because I'll probably need to use that when writing my backstory.
Yeah, sure. I can do that. I can email it to you guys or put it on Google Drive or something.
Okay.
Google Drive.
And also to remind me that I've got 100 gold that I get.
Yes.
Oh, thanks for reminding me. I forgot to write that down.
Oh,
100 gold.
100 gold.
Shopping.
100 gold.
Okay, so we went through session 0. We did a little tiny itty-bitty adventure there.
the hook. Introduce the hook.
So let's say goodnight to the listeners.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review anywhere this podcast can be found. Our social media links, plus additional content, can be found on our website at knightsofroleplay.com. Please tell your friends about Knights of Roleplay, an adventuring podcast, and spread the word through social media. Your help and support are greatly appreciated.